welcome to today's segment. I am pleased to be here with a former Melrose Wildcat and a Treadwell Eagle. Is that correct?
True.
Excellent. Dr. Doug Wilson and Dr. Alvin Crawford. They're in town this week for the University of Tennessee Health Science Center Golden Graduate Homecoming event. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What does it feel like to be a Golden Graduate, Dr. Crawford?
Let's maybe change the name. Why don't we say the Golden Graduate Reunion or something else? I've noticed now in obituaries they consider the homecoming event as the final event, and I would like to just change.
Well, I definitely don't see any finality.
No, it's an eerie sensation. Of course, everyone should be happy to be alive every day, but if you're alive to visit the institution you graduated from 50 years later, it's a good feeling.
Did you have any idea 50 years ago that you would still be friends with this gentleman all these years later?
I felt that we were going to be friends for sure, but because we really first met about 53 and a half years ago. I may not have thought about it then because I didn't know what was going to develop between us, but certainly by the time we graduated, I really felt that he was going to be my friend forever.
Now we're talking about 1964, right? Memphis, Tennessee.
That's when we graduated.
How did you guys come to know each other? Were you roommates, or how did you meet each other?
Okay. So, I was not wealthy enough to actually live in a dormitory, and I was living at home, and I thought I was going to die unless I found some place to live other than at home. So I applied to E.H. Krupp Hospital, which was the private African American hospital, part of the City of Memphis hospitals, and I wanted to do an externship because that would involve room and board. And Al was actually employed there at the time, because Al actually started 3 months ahead of me, because all of our classes were graduated. Each quarter there would be a new class come in. So Al there was a position opened up, and Al was told that he needed to find somebody to take his place. And so he showed up at my philosophy class and needed to talk to Doug Wilson. And so there he was, and I thought, what does he want to talk to me about? I thought I'd done something wrong. But then he was offering me the job, and it saved my life. I don't know that I would have been able to continue in medical school living at home, because it was very difficult.
What do you remember about him?
Well, you know, the times we were, everything at that time was a struggle for medical school, and that has nothing to do with the social life part of it. But he was engaging. He seemed to be just a regular person. The thing about it is that one had to be aware people had friendships for different reasons, and it appears that Doug just wanted to talk, and he wanted to do things, and he didn't have there didn't appear to be any agendas one way or the other, so we just sort of hit it off. We were both interested in, at that point in time, getting through medical school more so than anything else, and economics was an issue for the two of us, and we found a commonality in getting support, and one of the ways of getting support then was called the Navy Senior Program.
Yes.
And through that would be that for your senior year, you would get, at that time, naval ensign pay. But in addition to that, UT has an interesting medical school. It did then, the history was that it was brought up from the old V12 program to get doctors. They needed more doctors. So as a result of that, UT had a pure quota system. The doctors were trained for 12 quarters, year round, so it wasn't a summer graduation per se. But anyway, there was a 6X quarter. You went to a school of basic medical sciences with PhD candidates, master's candidates, or whatever, and then you went to school of clinical. Make a long story short, they had an addition to that what's called a 6X, where you took off for a quarter to study for your board, your basic science boards. And the Navy gave us an opportunity to do an outside externship at that time. So it was good. But no, I think the most important aspect of Doug relationship with me as his agenda was only to have a relationship with another human. So it never became that. And I must confess, actually, Doug said some things today that I've never heard him say. In our relationship, there are two parts of every relationship, and it had always been a relationship of two human beings, and you don't really know what one side is going through as opposed to what the other side is going in.
Now we're talking about 1964, and we've got two gentlemen here who are obviously from different ethnic backgrounds. I've not heard you mention that as coming into play at any point.
Well, that was the beauty of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you could say, well, that wasn't reality. And you could say, but that was the beauty of it. And we've sort of maintained that. And the beauty of if you'll think about it, because there's some things that are going on now, they're talking about the anniversary of the summer of 64. The summer of 64 was a disaster, if you look like me.
Mm-hmm.
And because we went through all of that, the time of the freedom rides, the buses. There's a group from Cincinnati, from Miami University. It was a Cheney, Cheney and Goodman, a Jewish kid, a black kid, and a kid from New York City, where they went down on the bus rides to enroll voters, and their remains were found sometime later. And all that sort of thing happened, but I don't really know whether we ever discussed that sort of thing. It was so it's been a friendship. It's more as if, I guess, had we been friends for that long. So it was interesting to hear Doug articulate some things that had to do with his approach to racism and so forth back there, but I don't really know whether we just talked about taking care of our business, our family, being in the Navy, and sort of getting the job done. It's been idyllic, if you'll think about that. And
so now, are you guys interacting with some of the students who are on campus today? And if so, what kinds of things might you be sharing with them?
The short answer is no.
No, I don't.
No, and that's not a part of it.
That we interacted with.
Now, you guys both have the commonality of pediatrics. Is that correct?
Yes and no.
He's a pediatric orthopedist, and I'm a general pediatric practitioner.
And have you seen some changes over time relative to the field that you're in?
Oh, absolutely. Probably more changes in his field, in his part of pediatrics, because all kinds of developments have gone on in terms of molecular genetics and assigning definite.
Neonatology.
Yeah, just many things. I'm a pediatric orthopedist, meaning that I practice orthopedic surgery, but only on children. And I did 2 fellowships in pediatrics while I was getting into that. But the field has been, mostly for us, it's a mechanical field, and it has to do with implantation, implantology, and instrumentation. Whereas the basic sciences with the genetics has been mostly on his side of the spectrum.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you are actually still practicing, is that correct?
Full time. I'm a clinical professor at the University of California, San Diego's College of Medicine, and I train residents, and I actually have first, second, third, and fourth year medical students that I teach as well. Can I add something about my background and my ideas about racism? I was raised by a mother that taught us that everybody was created equal. And she told me, she says, we're not any better than anybody else. We're all human beings. And that's the way she raised me. And I really had some problems early on in Memphis, because I would do things which would cause some threats to me. When I was 17 years old, I got thrown off a bus because an African American lady, an older lady, was getting on the bus, and she had lots of packages, and I got up and let her have my seat. And the bus driver would not leave until she went behind the white line. And there were no seats. And so he came back to make her go behind the white line, and I grabbed his arm. I said, "You just leave her alone." And he called me a name and threw me off the bus. And I didn't have enough money to buy another ticket, and so I had to walk all the way home. And I got home, and my mother said, "Where were you?" And I said, "Well, I got thrown off the bus." Mother said, "What did you do?" And I told her what had happened. She says, "You did the right thing." And there were other things. I could go into great detail about all of the things that I did, because I really was totally opposed to how African American people were treated. Being able to go into a store and want to pay for what I'm getting, and the person who's African American had to have Miss Jane come to take the money. And I thought, they know how to count, they know how to take the money, but that was not allowed. And I thought, that is the most ridiculous thing, for this person not to be allowed to do that. So that was part of my background. So I always saw Al not as a person of color, but as another medical student and a human being.
Dr. Crawford.
No, that wasn't easy.
No.
No, that wasn't easy, and it wasn't easy on his part, because you think about it, it's a big world. There's a lot of us, and it's a big tent, and everybody should play in the tent. But as there were just generalized recriminations for pretty much everything I did or didn't want to do, I had access. My family was here. I had access of a community that was completely behind me and so forth. But so if I crossed the line and there were problems, I could get back on the other side of the line. If he crossed the line, then he didn't have that safety. And so for him to reach out to me, and I never considered that at that time, except I had a friend who wanted to get into fraternity, and he couldn't get into one of the medical fraternities because he had been a friend. But I know that he probably had as much of an issue with kids who didn't feel the same way as we were friends.
You were the first African American student to be admitted to University of Tennessee Health Science Center.
Yes.
And you're from Melrose?
I'm from Melrose High
Which
School.
means you're from Orange Mound?
I am from Orange Mound.
How